Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. This is episode 93. So I have to tell you, I have not been sending out my podcast emails to tell you all about a podcast. So if you're listening, thank you for listening. And feel free always to share these if you think it will align with someone else, because I'm personally not doing a ton of marketing on these episodes in terms of sharing them outwardly. As I said, I'm not sending out emails very much. Sometimes I forget to post on Instagram. So you OG, you people who are subscribed, I thoroughly appreciate you for subscribing and for sharing if it resonates with someone else, and also just for being a listener. I love my podcast. And this week, I literally was typing out the title because I've had two ideas that I wanted to share for a while, and I thought I was going to do one of them, and I typed the title out. This one is about gear shifting in and out of vacation mode and traveling and all of that. And gosh, it's not ready. That's kind of what I heard, is it's not ready to be an episode. I actually have one more trip this year coming up in about a week and a half. And so maybe it's waiting until after that trip in order to be released. I don't know. I'll let you know, but I didn't want to release a half-baked podcast episode idea. So, oh boy, I guess I should start, since most of what we do together is we process like living the work, what it's like. And I should start by saying last week, I almost forgot about it. It's Monday. Last week, I think, was one of the most transformational weeks that I've had since shifting in January, since a big shift that I had in January. And that's saying a lot, because this year has blown me up, okay? I thought last year was intense. No, this year, oh my God. So for me to say that is just next level. And it all started on Sunday, and I had a call, and it was like this big eye-opener call, and it was really great. And from there, it had me really rethinking a lot of things. Okay, well, what am I doing in my business? How am I showing up? What offerings am I offering to my clients? And really right now, all I'm doing is minimal one-on-one. I'm holding the space and holding hands and holding energy and allowing for deep shifts and transformations to happen with my one-to-one clients. And really, I'm working with 3 to 4 people at a time. Crazy, right? And also feels so perfectly aligned for me. But I really started thinking about how I want to structure that, how I want to present that. And anyway, I brought that question to my projector playground group. I swear I mentioned these every episode. And I brought that to the group and had a really big breakthrough on our group call. Talk about energy moving. I was sweating. I got a headache. I was feeling dizzy. My body was like, yes, yes, yes. So I started living into that, and how I've been living into that, basically a different version of myself who works with clients a little bit differently and I know that the work I'm doing with my clients is super impactful, but as you may know, with the be, do, have model of living, is we often think in order to have what I want, so maybe a number of clients or, a monthly income or something, then I have to do these things. And once I do those things, I'll be the person that has what I want, right? That's the traditional process, is have, do, be. And then the other model is be, do, have. So in order to have the things I want, to be the person that does that, I have to be that person now. And so how do I be the person now that I experienced that next level shift that happened last week on my mastermind call? And it's quite simple. You close the gap of where you are now versus where you want to be. And how you close the gap is by envisioning and living into that reality. So what's happened is every evening I've been laying in bed and I've added to my practice. I told you I was thinking about all the things that went right, and in particular, all the things John is doing well and right in the world and in our relationship, which, by the way, I can't even describe the level of shifts that have happened. I don't know if he has any idea of anything that's going on, right? But my experience of our relationship and of him has vastly changed. The only thing I've changed is by every night just paying attention, and during the day is paying attention to what he's doing that I appreciate. It's beautiful. And so now I'm doing that with embodying this new version of me. And it is me, right? I'm not living into that version. I am her. And so every night I lay down and I feel into that. I'm like, how do I wake up? What do I do? How do I show up? What thoughts do I have? How am I using my money, right? What am I investing in? What does my day look like? What conversations am I having? What type of people am I spending time with? What are these conversations that we get to have that grow us? And I just live that in my head. I live that reality. And another thing I've been really living into is just opening up to abundance in all ways. And that came from a call with Jess Lively. She's like, I don't know why we get so specific over where money comes from. She says, we try to dictate where the money should come instead of being open to money when it arrives. We try to say, you can only come from this way. I need to have 7 clients in order to have money. And it ignores all of the infinite ways that money can come. And she plays this really fun what if game of and she said she used to do this with a partner as well. She's like, I could meet a prince when I'm in Bali. She would just play an extreme what if game, which really helps the brain break through its limiting thoughts and beliefs, right? We think there's only one way to bring in money, right? Through clients or through your paycheck or whatever. We think there's only one way to find a partner, right? Through the dating app. We think there's only one way to get healthy. I have to follow a certain exercise and diet routine. Well, what if we open up to all the other ways and break the boundaries of the mind of what we think is possible? And one thing Jess Lively had said, she's like, I could be on a hike and find a diamond. I was like, oh my God, I love that. Just breaking the boundaries of the mind. And that's really what I've been playing with, certainly in what I'm capable of, how much money I can earn, how many conversations I can have, how impactful I can be while also honoring my own energy, my own flow, and my life. So that's just what I've been doing every night, is just living into that. It's really fun. So if there's something you're looking for, you can ask yourself, what version of me has this? And then you can just start imagining yourself as that person, day in, day out. So that was really intense and a wonderful shift that I experienced. And then more things happened. I don't remember, but I had a reflexology and Tibetan cranial session scheduled on Thursday. So I went to that and I told her, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've been shifting so much and my energy is all over the place. And as she was doing the session, she said, I'm really getting the sense from you that from your body, she's so intuitive and she and I know each other really well. So when she works on me, it's we co-create. My body is very responsive to the work that she's doing. So she said, your body is telling me that it wants to slow down. And I'm like, more? I'm slow. And she said, yeah, but I'm sensing maybe some sort of cleanse. And she said, it's really not about the food that I'm hearing, but it's just about all the practices and just slowing everything down. And I thought, well, it's interesting you mentioned cleanse, because over the past week, I'd kind of bought things by accident that were leading me toward my favorite kind of way to cleanse, which is an Ayurvedic Khichdi cleanse. You just eat a mono diet. It's really lovely. And so I thought, that's interesting that that's showing up. And then I was laying there, and I think I shared recently that I was only wanting to eat fruit. Like that was the only thing that sounded good. Like caffeine wasn't tasting good, alcohol wasn't tasting good, sugar wasn't tasting good. Like just the only thing that was really tasting good was fruit, which is weird because I don't tend to eat a ton of fruit. And so then I was laying on the table, like in a integration period between the session, and I was like, what should I be eating? Like, what should I be doing? And my body said, rice and beans, soup and fruit. It's like, thanks, inner voice, for that clear message. And the funny thing is, that's basically the Khichdi cleanse. So then I was thinking, okay, well, I need to pick up dinner tonight. So what should I have tonight? And I got this image of, I had heard rice and beans, soup and fruit. And I was like, okay, soup sounds good. And then I got this image of like something, it looked like a carrot. It was like orange, like carrot, sweet potato curry. And I thought, ooh, that sounds good. Where can I buy that? And then I was literally shown like these sweet potatoes that were in my fruit bowl on my table that are like growing roots because they're old and need to be used. And like these 2 carrots that I randomly picked up at the store the other day, even though I had no need for them. I just grabbed 2 carrots and then this nub of ginger that I had in the fridge. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to make this. And so that kind of kicked off this, okay, I'm slowing down my body. I'm eating slowly cooked, right? Nourishing foods. So khichdi, cooked vegetables, rice and beans, coconut milk, ghee. I made a big pot of mineral broth. So basically a vegetable broth. I add potatoes and kombu and all of that. So it's really supportive. And then the practices. And so I realized that in my mornings, I was kind of getting right into it, and I'd be Voxering all day long and talking, voice memoing with friends and clients and consuming podcasts and consuming Instagram and consuming other people's voice memos and reading emails. And it was like, and so even though I wasn't working or doing like busy work all day, I ended up filling my energy with like the high beta brainwaves. It was like burp, 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 burp. And in Ayurveda, that's the energy is Vata energy, which is air and space. So I was in that energy a lot, is what I was realizing. So the other thing that I'm beginning to integrate is slowing down in just how I'm operating. So instead of like rushing from bed to the shower, got to make my lemon water, got to make my athletic greens, got to do this, got to read a book, busy, mind, go, I'm starting to slow. So it's like, get up, mindfully make the bed and make it beautiful. One way I really can slow down is doing my oil pulling in the morning. And that means I can't talk for the first 20 minutes. So these are all Ayurvedic practices. So I get up and I scrape my tongue. And then I use Banyan Botanicals oil pulling oil, and I gently swish this herbal oil in my mouth for 20 minutes. And as I do that, it was pick Mia up, carry her around. She and I go outside to jumpstart our circadian rhythm. So it's like, first thing you want to do in the morning is go outside and look at the sky without any glasses or contacts in. And then you can even hold your wrists up and just let that early morning sun, it helps sync you with your circadian rhythm. So I take Mia outside, we look at the sky, and then I made my lemon water. And this morning, I grabbed my Kindle and my book, and I brought my lemon water out on the porch to just sit in the sun, and I went to read. And then I heard, just be. And I was like, oh, right. So even here is a time when I go, right? And I don't need to activate and listen, have the mind going all the time. So instead, I set the book down and I just sat there and I closed my eyes and I just listened, and I could hear the birds and the crickets and the wind. And it was another opportunity for me to live into the new me, right? The new version of myself. Oh my gosh. So it's just fun to kind of witness how we often are rushing, and even just trying to constantly keep the mind entertained. And that's a lot. It keeps us busy and it keeps us from feeling. That's what really happens. So then later today, I had gotten some work done and it felt great. And then I had this like pause. I was like, I don't feel like doing more, but oh my God, what do I do? And then I felt these like intense emotions well up. And I immediately wanted to scroll on Instagram, and I did open the Instagram app. It's a really great way to distract yourself from feeling feelings. Spoiler alert. And then I thought, wait a second, this isn't slow, right? This is a speed up and a distraction. So I put the phone down and I just laid down, and I'm in my closet. It's really just a closet still. It will soon be a cloffice, don't worry. But I just laid down on the floor and I felt it. And I let the emotions come up. I let the thoughts flood. And then I just breathed with it. And I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is the slowness. This is the presence. This is the awareness. And I just sat with it. And I think I talked about this recently, but we tend to, when things come up, to want to run from them, right? And we want to avoid and distract. And we do that by distracting the mind because we're afraid of what the mind is going to think. And then the mind starts spiraling, and then it gets into like these shame and guilt and stress cycles, right? And it's like all these thoughts flood. And then it's on Instagram and it's like, oh, look at what these people are doing. I'm worse than them. It's like this horrible cycle. And so when you can lie down, and this is a process that I've taught for a while, which I call stop, look, and listen. So you stop. So like stop whatever you're doing and stop the mind in such that you stop everything, close your eyes, and you look inward. So even literally, instead of your eyes going up to the head, let your eyes soften down into the body. And you breathe. And you really breathe. I was reading recently that when our breath doesn't make it past the chest, so your diaphragm, right, is below your rib cage. And if our breath gets stuck in the chest, it actually activates your fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system. So that's why deep breaths are so important. You want to deeply move the breath down beyond the sympathetic nervous system, down into the belly to activate your parasympathetic nervous system that actually calms you down. So if you notice when you breathe, if it goes and it gets stuck, just be aware of that. The lungs are like a muscle, and so they can be expanded more. So think about that breathing when you're looking, right? The stop and then the look. You go, that was not a chest breath, huh? So allow yourself to drop deeper into the breathing and look inside. Where's the fight? Where are the lightning bolts? Where is the feeling? What's happening? And then you can ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? And that's the listen. What am I seeking? What am I avoiding? What do I need to feel? And just listen and breathe. Just stay with that for a little bit. And then the final step would be, if it's necessary, you can act upon what you hear, or you can just stay in that place for a little bit, that little pause, and then come back out. So that's kind of where I'm at with this story, I guess, that I'm telling you. And it ties right into the next part. And so the next part is when you're feeling this way, like when you get feelings activated, when you feel like you're wanting to run away or avoid, another thing that often comes up is the desire to go outward for the answers, a desire to turn to someone else to fix you. And so this was actually before my Mexico trip, but this has happened to me a lot. But there was one specific moment before my trip to Mexico where I was just having a really hard time. And I was feeling like my mind was like bling, 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 like pinging like crazy. I felt all these feelings. My nervous system was feeling like, ah. And so I decided to take a bath. And I got in the bath and I was laying there, and my mind was so desperate for something outside of me to fix it. It was like, maybe I should book a session with my coach, Lauren. Maybe I need to book an inner voice session. Oh, I really wanted to do an RTT session with Susan Moya. Like, it was like bouncing. Maybe I should book a Reiki session. I need this immediately. Someone fix me. I can't do this. I can't deal with this. This is, blah, blah. But I couldn't, right? It was like 7:00 at night and I was in the bathtub. So there was no one else to turn to. And so I continued to breathe. I continued to sit with it. And then I asked my inner voice, how do you see this? And I just started listening from within. And at the end of that bath, I felt more calm, more still, more connected than anything. And the beauty was I didn't have to go outside of myself to fix myself. The mind thought I needed fixing, right? It was just the mind was thoroughly uncomfortable. But the body and my inner voice had wisdom to share if only the mind would allow it to come through. And in that space of like, oh, I have no other options, I kind of had to surrender to the beingness. And I had a chance to really listen to what needed to be said. And so that's happened to me a lot. And I would ask you too, like, do you notice that when things start to get activated within you, or you start to feel like, your system starts to flare, do you notice that your immediate reaction is like, I have to go outside of myself. I have to tell someone, I have to book a session, I have to fix it. And I would just ask you, is that true? Now, look, I am a coach. I support my clients on Voxer. I have my own amazing friends and coaches and people in my life that are there to support me. And I'm a big proponent of sharing our burdens and expressing ourselves and not suffering alone, right? So there's a difference, and I want to be really clear here because I have a tendency when I'm going through something hard of like pulling away and hiding and not sharing and like being in my own suffering. So at that point, it's really important for me to express to others and ask for support. But there's another part of like, I don't have to pull away at all, and I don't necessarily have to go outside of myself for help. Because when I slow down and tune in and become really present to my body, I have the opportunity to get support from myself. You're so powerful. You have so much wisdom within you already, if only you're willing to listen. And I know it's hard. I go through this. I don't want to listen to my own wisdom. I want someone else's wisdom. I want another mind to tell my mind what to do. But the reason I got involved in this inner voice work, the reason I do this with my clients, the reason this is so inspiring to me is because it puts you back in the driver's seat. You have power. You have a say. In fact, your body's wisdom probably knows what it needs more than anyone or any other mind does. Your body knows what it needs for you. And it can be hard to kind of discover that at first. And then even once you discover that, it can be hard to trust that. And let me tell you, this is what I do with my Insight one-to-one clients. Like literally a big part of what we do is we explore what's happening, what's coming up, what you're avoiding, and then listening to the truth, right? To what your body's actually asking for. And then as you do that more and more and you create space to listen and hear, and then you act upon what you hear, you start to build the trust. And what's happening is you're getting the keys to your own system. You're the wisest person for your own system. You are. Do not fight me on that. You are the expert on you. Now, the mind is different than your inner voice, your inner knowing. So what the mind wants and needs is different than what the body wants and needs. The mind has compulsions, the mind has fears, the mind operates based on comparison, the mind needs to prove things. So if you're operating solely from the mind, you're likely not getting the results and experiences that you desire in life. And you might say, well, Dana, I do everything my mind says to do. And look where I'm at. I'm stressed out. I'm overtired. I'm fearful. And I don't know how to push the off button. Like I can't stop. I'm always moving toward the next thing. And so what I love to do with clients, I mean, to me, it's the most impactful work any flipping person can do, is to carve out the space to slow down, to tune in, to learn to access your inner voice that's always there. It's always talking to you, but just to learn to slow the mind enough in order to listen. And then to receive the guidance, receive the information, receive the direction on the next best step, and then to follow that. And every time you do that, every time you step toward the path that is more scary and more challenging, the easy path is the one we've been taught, which is just to follow the mind. And shoot, don't even listen to your mind. Everyone else's mind knows what's right for you more than you. Go to the experts. Oh, the experts, they know everything. They're experts, right? The mind is extremely limited, y'all. It's a great tool, but it is extremely limited. And relying on other people's minds to run our lives it's so limited. It's a limited way to live. When you can shift that arrow from outward and being like, they have to fix me, save me, right? That's more of like a victim. Like, I can't do it alone. I'm stuck. Help. You fix me. You do it. And I say, no, you do it. We can lean on other people, right? We can use other people to help encourage us and support us. But ultimately, the most beautiful, impactful, powerful thing you can choose is to listen to your inner guidance. That's it. Day in and day out. Listen to the little nudges, right? Listen to, what's coming through? What am I avoiding? What am I afraid of? Oh my gosh, I feel this feeling inside my body. What do I do with it? And it's a huge practice. To be clear, I am not oversimplifying this, but what's been happening for me more and more is I have the most magical support system. I can't even begin to express the number of amazing people in my life that I have to lean on, and I lean on them. But at the end of the day, the most important thing for me to do is to continually come back to myself and to check in. That's all. We just want to continue to check in. Is this direction still serving me? Are these relationships still serving me, right? Is the work I'm doing still serving me and others? Like, is this still aligned? And then you get to work with others, you get to work with coaches, and you get to amplify and dig in even deeper to your truth and your knowing, and you get to amplify. And I get to help you, of course, when I work with you. Like, of course, the mind's going to be involved. Like, once we know what your inner guidance wants, like, the mind's going to be afraid. That's fine. Then we get to work with bypassing, those fears of the mind and moving through them and shifting them. But we always come back to that core of self. Oh my gosh, it is the most magical thing. And then, of course, things come up. You have emotions that come up, hence how I was lying on the floor earlier today. And you have old emotions that come up, right? That were trapped. And then all of a sudden you have space because it's safe for them to come up. It's just such an intimate way to live your life and to expand. Oh my gosh. So I wish for that for each of you. And I know it's happening for my clients. And I always say I'm like the buoy for them because things can get really heavy and intense when we start to question everything we thought was true. Right? When you start to be like, oh my God, have I been doing this because I truly wanted it or just because I thought that's what I had to do? Like it literally blows people's minds. The mind's like, what? And it will go into like shutdown mode. And so I become the buoy to help you remember that there's still light always here and we're always moving toward the light. And the darkness is merely just contrast, right? And you can pulsate between going to the external, right? Taking another course or program, like learning something new, like let's entertain the mind, right? And then you always take that information and filter it through the internal. Does this serve me? Is this right for me? Is this aligning me toward what I desire from deep within? And we keep pulsating and growing and expanding and pushing the comfort zones and having breakdowns, okay? And then you get up and then you're like, holy smokes, everything looks bright and shiny. And then you kind of go through it again. And it's this pulsation, expand, contract, but forever we're actually expanding. Even in the contractions, we're still expansive beings. And it's the coolest shit in town. Let me tell you, I'm obsessed. So as always, I go through this so much on my own. And then I process this stuff with all the amazing coaches and people I have in my life so that then I get to use it with my clients and talk about it with you all on the podcast. So anyway, that's this week's episode. That's a little update. And I'm so grateful for you all. I'm just so grateful that we're on this journey together. We're continuing to expand, to make space, to shape shift, and let it all, the full rainbow of experiences and feelings, to wash through us. So thank you so much for listening. If you're interested in going deeper into self, to creating space, and to having a container where you too get to expand way beyond what you ever thought was possible from your mind, to release the baggage and old stories and just emotions and stuff that you don't need so that you can literally skyrocket forward, slowing down to speed up, then let me know. You can send me an email to dana@alignful.com, message me on Instagram at Dana_Evans, and I'd love to jump on a quick little call with you to just find out more about what is calling you to this work and how we could possibly work together. I think I shared I'm opening 3 to 4, it's not clear, very, very, very small group of people to do one-to-one work with for September, October, and November. So that's super limited, and that's going to be the last group of people I take before January. So if you're interested on one-to-one work, let me know. Otherwise, I will catch you next week on the Tuning In podcast. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans, or find me on my website at alignful.com.